BF Day proudly presents Mr. M's Math Class.
Hey guys, and welcome to episode 8 of Mr. M's Math Class. Thank you so much for joining me today. Before we begin, I wanted to say really quickly an apology to Vinny, who actually did get the quarantine challenge question correct, and also to Fergus, who got it right as well, just was unable to turn it in at an earlier time, but both of them also got it right, so I wanted to say that right off the bat. A couple reminders. I know some of you fourth graders in particular were having trouble with some of that division work that we were doing in the last two episodes. I want to be clear that the last two episodes have been fifth grade math content, and so if you struggled with it a little bit, it's okay, and it's a little bit of a preview of what you'll be doing next year. And one thing to note is that after we finish spring break, and when we come back, we're going to move into some fourth grade geometry. So hopefully everyone will be able to access that. I'll talk a little bit about the agenda today. First, I'm going to share some pictures of you looking at episode 7. 2, we'll have our new estimation 180 that was provided to us today by Vinny. So thank you, Vinny, for giving us that today. 3, I'm going to share some observations from math exploration number 7. 4, I'm going to introduce the new math exploration. Number 5, I'm going to give you guys a new coloring sheet, some Ken-Kens, and then also remind you a little bit about the current quarantine challenge question. And then 6, and lastly, I'll have a goodbye message, and we'll give you the answer to the estimation 180. So here are some pictures of you looking at episode 7. All right, again, thank you so much for sending those pictures in. Parents, don't forget to take a quick snapshot of your kid looking at the episode. Kids really, really like seeing each other. I think it normalizes this whole process a little bit more. So thank you for those of you who have been sending those in. Up next, we have our estimation 180 question that was provided by Vinny. And this question is, how many pieces are in the unfinished puzzle? Again, how many pieces are in the unfinished puzzle? And it's unfinished, so you're thinking, how many pieces are currently in the picture? All right, so let's talk a little bit about math exploration number 7, which was the last one. Overall, it really seemed like the majority of you really understood dividing a whole number by a fraction, which is really great. It's a really complex type of thing to kind of understand, so really, really impressed by all of your work. A couple things that I did notice were this misconception of multiplication, dividing a whole number in a fraction, and then multiplying a whole number in a fraction. And so here's what I mean by that. So I think there was a little bit of confusion, for example, with this question, 12 divided by 1/3. And I think if we were thinking about this as 1/3 of 12, which is of 12, 1/3 of 12 is 4. And so there seemed to be some sort of confusion here that the answer here would be 4. And that's where the misconception came in. And so what this is really is asking you is, if I had 12 cups of soup and I'm going to give 1/3 cup servings, how many people can I serve? So how many 1/3s are there in 12? And I'm just going to do this really quickly. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's say each one of these is my cups of soup. So I have 12 cups of soup, and I want to know how many 1/3s there are in total. And so I'm going to split each one of these into 3 equal parts. And excuse my quickness here, they're not going to be exactly perfect. And so if I count out how many 1/3s I have in total, some of you realize that I can just multiply 12 times 3, which gives us 36. And so there are 36 1/3 servings in 12 cups. So again, it doesn't mean that the answer is 36 wholes. It means I have 36 1/3 inside of 12. Another thing that I also noticed was was the connection that some of you thought that you can just write 5 times 1/2 is the same as 5 divided by 1/2. And I saw this in like 2 or 3 or 4 of you in your work, and these are not equivalent, right? This is not the same thing. And so when I multiply 5 times 1/2, or what is half of 5, the answer here is 2.5. Right? Half of 5 is 2.5. But if I'm dividing 5 divided by 1/2, same thing as before, I'm thinking how many halves are there in 5? So if I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, let's say 5 cups of soup, and I'm giving half serving to everybody, I can give 10 half servings. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's 10. So you can't write 5 times 1/2 is the same as 5 divided by 1/2. So just be really careful when you're writing that out. But overall, really, really impressed. And so we're going to flip it now and move into dividing a fraction by a whole number. You would think it'd be the same, but it's not. So we'll talk about that right now. All right, so for our next math exploration, we're going to flip the division equation, and we're going to move in from dividing a whole number with a fraction to dividing a fraction by a whole number. And so here we have an example of 1/4 divided by 2. And what this means is if I have 1/4 of something, I'm sharing it evenly between two things. And so it really requires you to divide 1/4 into 2 equal parts, and then think about what does those new parts, what do those actually represent? What do they mean? And so in order to help us kind of think about this, I wrote a story problem here that might help us kind of understand what this means. And so Mr. M had 1/4 of a candy bar left. And I'm going to show that really quickly here. This candy bar, let's start with half. And this is what I have left. Okay, so I have this 1/4 of a candy bar left. He divided it evenly, so I took that 1/4 and I divided it evenly with my fiance. What fraction of the candy bar did we each get? So in my picture here, I'm thinking, okay, I have this 1/4, and I'm going to split it and give this piece to me and this piece to my fiance. So what I'm thinking about here is what piece is this? What fraction is this piece of the whole candy bar? And I can see that my fiance gets 1 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so 1/4 divided by 2 is 1/8. So my fiance gets 1/8, and then I get 1/8 because I'm splitting that 1/4 into 2 equal parts. And again, you can see that in the picture here. And so for your math exploration, you're going to be solving some of these questions. It won't be as many as last time. And so it's actually, I believe it's just going to be 4. And you'll get to choose some of your challenge as well in the second page of the exploration. If you have any questions, please let me know. But it's not too complicated. In 5th graders, this should look really familiar to multiplying fractions by fractions. So there's a connection there. And 4th graders, if you're having a really hard time with this, I would say watch this again. Really think about this picture here when you're solving it. But really good luck today. All right, one more thing about that exploration. Just know that it will be due after spring break. So do take some time for yourself next week. If you really want to do it, obviously you can do that and turn it in early, but it won't be due until April 21st, the Tuesday when we come back from spring break. So make sure to have that uploaded before Tuesday, April 21st. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Ken, we're going to talk about the coloring sheet and just a reminder about the quarantine challenge question. So the quarantine challenge question is due next Tuesday. It is during spring break. It is due Tuesday, April 14th. A lot of you have already turned it in. Be mindful that so far we have gotten to be like 9 entries, and only 2 people out of those 9 have gotten it right. So really make sure you're looking at the pictures really carefully, because it's kind of tricky. If you're not looking carefully, you might have made a mistake. So it actually took me 3 or 4 tries to get the answer right. So be really careful with that. It's Friday, and so you'll get a new Ken puzzle. Those of you who don't have a printer or can't print them out, just know that you can download an app called KenKen, and it's really great. I have it on my phone. I play it every so often. You can also order the book online on Amazon. There's KenKen puzzlers, and you can pick different puzzles, the difficulty levels. So I would recommend doing that. And then the coloring sheet for today is just a single sheet, and it is a Fire Mario. So here's what that looks like. Okay, so we reached the end of the episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. Wait, I think we have some breaking news. Amir, what's going on?
We just got a breaking news. So the breaking news that we got is we're not going back to school again.
Thanks for that news, Amir. I know it's a huge bummer. I think his body language kind of shows a lot of what we're feeling at home. It's a huge bummer that we're not going back to school this year, but know that we are in the process of trying to figure something out for all of you 5th graders and 4th graders as well, to have some fun in the next coming months before the end of the school year. And we are planning something to honor all of you 5th graders before you promote to 6th grade. So we are working hard to try to make that fun for you guys. Know that there will be no new content, new academic stuff next week because of spring break, and so our next Mr. M's math class won't be until April 21st when we come back from spring break. So have fun next week, and I hope to see you at some point. It's really great to see you virtually and with those lunches, but I will see you around. And here is, I almost forgot, here is the answer to Vinny's question of how many pieces are in the unfinished puzzle. Goodbye.